The shocking biblical standard. What he must be to marry my daughter. Did you know that more than 60% of marriages today are on a collision course with failure because they ignore timeless, unyielding biblical mandates? Imagine a world where every relationship is built not on fleeting emotions or transient trends, but on absolute, divine requirements that have withstood the test of time. Today, we confront provocative and challenging question. What must a man be if he truly desires to marry my daughter? I have often been asked which of my writings I hold dearest. Choosing one is like selecting a favorite child. Each work represents a piece of my heart and soul. Yet, if I must name one title that has stirred countless hearts and challenged many minds, it is undoubtedly this one. What he must be if he wants to marry my daughter. At first glance, it might seem trivial to differentiate between what a man needs to be, should be, or must be, but I want to impress upon you that this is not a matter of personal taste or subjective preference. When we speak of what he must be, we are not talking about a list of mere desirable traits. We are describing uncompromising, divinely ordained requirements. This is not about personal preference or cultural fads. It is about the enduring principles that have guided the sacred institution of marriage since time immemorial. Before we delve into the specifics, let's take a moment to reflect on the cultural shifts that have profoundly altered our understanding of relationships and marriage. Not so long ago, sex and childbearing were inseparable, linked in a way that ensured both partners fully embraced the consequences of intimacy. The advent of modern contraceptives radically separated these once inseparable elements, transforming sex into an act that no longer carried the intrinsic possibility of creating life. This profound change not only revolutionized our view of intimacy, but also altered the very foundation upon which marriage was built. As sex was progressively detached from the possibility of childbearing, it became further untethered from the sacred covenant of marriage. What was once a binding promise between families, an agreement that carried with it deep responsibilities and communal expectations, has, in many cases, been reduced to a simple contractual arrangement between individuals. This dilution of meaning has led to a casual attitude toward what should be a lifelong commitment. Consider the ripple effects of these shifts. Today, many young men approach relationships with a mindset that prizes immediate gratification over long-term commitment. They often seek a partner who can fill the role of a companion for fleeting moments, rather than someone who will stand by them through the trials and triumphs of life. Similarly, many young women now search for a partner who feels more like a best friend than the steadfast, protective figure traditionally expected in a marriage. This transformation in expectations has created a chasm between the modern understanding of courtship and the biblical vision of marriage, a chasm that leaves relationships vulnerable to the pressures and uncertainties of contemporary culture. The moment a Christian enters into a sexual relationship today, there is an unspoken assumption that this partner is destined to be the future spouse. This emotional leap, often made without careful reflection on character and spiritual readiness, can lead to relationships that falter when confronted with the inevitable challenges of life. What is at stake here is not simply personal preference. It is adherence to God's explicit commands regarding marriage, family, and the responsibilities that come with them. When we assert that a man must be a certain way, we are laying down a blueprint based on biblical standards. Let's explore why this distinction is so vital. In our culture, marriage is frequently seen as a matter of personal compatibility, a subjective checklist of preferences. But for those who hold fast to biblical wisdom, the quest for a spouse transcends mere personal taste. It is a journey toward fulfilling a divine mandate, where every aspect of the relationship is measured against eternal, unchanging standards. Central to this divine blueprint is the timeless principle of parental duty. For centuries, parents have been entrusted with the sacred responsibility of guiding their children into the covenant of marriage. This duty is not a relic of an outdated era. It is a scriptural mandate that has shaped generations. Throughout the Bible, we encounter clear examples of parental involvement in the sacred process of giving a child in marriage, a practice designed to protect, nurture, and prepare the next generation for the challenges of life. In every ancient text and cherished tradition, the role of parents in blessing and overseeing their children's union stands as a testament to the gravity of marriage as a covenant, extending far beyond the interests of any one individual. Equally significant is the principle of male headship, a concept that has stirred considerable debate in modern times. Yet, The Bible clearly outlines a divine order for marriage, where a man is called to be more than just a partner. He is meant to be a leader, a protector, a provider, and a spiritual guide. These roles are not optional enhancements to his character. They form the very essence of what it means to be a husband and, by extension, a father. When a man embraces these responsibilities wholeheartedly, he honors God's command and lays a strong foundation for a stable, thriving family. Allow me to elaborate further on these four indispensable qualities. A man prepared to marry my daughter must first be a priest, a spiritual leader whose daily walk is marked by prayer, worship, and a steadfast commitment to nurturing his family's faith. His life should serve as a moral compass, a light that guides his household through darkness, and a source of wisdom that directs him in the ways of righteousness. Next, he must be a prophet, a man endowed with vision, insight, and the ability to discern God amid the noise of the modern world. This prophetic quality means he can see beyond immediate challenges and make decisions grounded in eternal truths. His foresight and understanding must extend not only to his own life, but to the well-being of his family, guiding them through the complexities of a rapidly changing world. The third quality is that of a provider. A man who aspires to be a husband must demonstrate unwavering reliability, ensuring that his family is supported in every tangible way. This does not merely refer to financial provision, though that is undoubtedly important. It also encompasses the emotional and spiritual sustenance that every family needs. Being a provider means being prepared to make sacrifices, planning for the future, and creating a secure environment where each member can flourish. Finally, he must be a protector, a guardian whose role is to shield his family from the myriad challenges and dangers of the world. This protection is not only physical, but also emotional and spiritual. In a society that often seeks to undermine traditional values, the role of a protector is to stand firm in the face of cultural pressures, to defend the sanctity of marriage, and to ensure that the family remains a safe haven of love and security. Now, let's widen our lens to examine the broader cultural backdrop. Modern media often glamorizes a distorted version of romance, one where a single declaration or an impulsive gesture is mistaken for profound, enduring commitment of marriage. Countless films and television shows reduce love to a series of superficial milestones, where labels and fleeting sentiments overshadow the deep, transformative power of a covenant. Yet, the biblical view of love is radically different. It sees love not as a mere feeling, but as a binding contract, an unbreakable promise that requires sacrifice, perseverance, and above all, obedience to God's word. This divergence in perspective is especially evident when we consider the current state of premarital counseling. In many contemporary relationships, couples dive headlong into intimacy without first taking the time to build a solid biblical foundation. They leap from passion to partnership without the essential step of self-examination and mutual evaluation of spiritual readiness. In contrast, premarital counseling from a biblical standpoint is an intensive, introspective process. It compels individuals to confront their shortcomings, to reflect deeply on their responsibilities, and ensure that their union will not only honor each other, but also God. The consequences of divorcing sex from its sacred context have been profound. When intimacy is reduced to a casual act, stripped of its inherent potential to create and nurture life, it paves the way for relationships that lack depth and accountability. For many, this casual approach creates a dangerous illusion that passion alone can sustain a marriage. However, true passion, the kind that endures through trials and tribulations, is born out of commitment to uphold God's commandments. It is rooted in a love that is as much about duty as it is about desire, a love that views marriage as a lifelong covenant rather than a temporary arrangement. Let us return now to the essential question: what must a man be if he wants to marry my daughter? It is not sufficient for him to simply be a friend or a companion. He must be a man of unwavering integrity, molded by divine standards. He must embody the four pillars of biblical manhood: a spiritual leader, a visionary, a steadfast provider, and a vigilant protector. These are not abstract ideals. They are practical requirements that shape every aspect of a relationship and prepare a couple for the realities of life together. Reflect on the role of parental duty in this equation. For generations, parents have taken an active role in the marriage process, not as tyrants imposing their will, but but as wise counselors entrusted with guiding their children toward a life of responsibility and faith. In biblical tradition, this duty is not merely advisory, it is foundational. When parents invest in the proper guidance of their children, they create a legacy of strength and continuity, ensuring that the principles of love, sacrifice, and duty are passed down from one generation to the next. Equally critical is the controversial yet indispensable principle of male headship. In today's discourse, this concept is often misunderstood and misrepresented. However, the biblical call for male leadership is not about domination or control. It is about stewardship, sacrifice, and service. A man who accepts this calling does so not out of desire for power, but out of profound commitment to protect, lead, and nurture his family. This leadership is modeled on Christ's own example, a love that is selfless, unwavering, and ultimately redemptive. Now, consider the practical applications of these biblical standards. In everyday life, a man who embodies these principles will actively seek to develop his spiritual life. He will commit to regular prayer and study, not only for his own growth, but to fortify the spiritual well-being of his entire household. He will cultivate a vision that extends beyond immediate challenges, a vision that embraces long-term planning, family legacy, and the nurturing of values that transcend the shifting winds of modern culture. As a provider, he will demonstrate responsibility by creating stability in all areas of life. This involves making thoughtful decisions that balance both financial prudence and emotional care, ensuring that every member of the family feels secure and valued. He will be a model of perseverance, showing that true provision means planning for tomorrow while meeting today's needs. And as a protector, he will actively engage in safeguarding the family from the distractions and dangers of a culture that often undermines biblical truths. He will stand firm in his convictions, challenging the casual attitudes toward intimacy and commitment that have become so prevalent. In doing so, he not only honors the sacred institution of marriage, but also sets an example for others in his community, a community that desperately needs anchors of steadfast faith in these turbulent times. In the midst of these discussions, it is important to recognize that this is not an academic exercise, but call to live out principles that have real-world implications. When marriages are built on anything less than a firm adherence to God's word, the consequences ripple far beyond the immediate relationship. The integrity of families, the strength of communities, and even the moral fabric of society are at stake. By reclaiming and upholding these biblical standards, we not only honor our Creator, but we also create a legacy that will inspire future generations to pursue relationships characterized by commitment, responsibility, and love. Today's conversation is an invitation, a challenge, to examine our own lives and the standards we hold dear. It is a call to rise above the superficial trends of our time and to embrace a higher, more enduring vision of what marriage should be. As we journey through these ideas together, I encourage you to reflect on your own experiences and to consider how the principles we discuss can transform your perspective on love, commitment, and family. Imagine a future where every marriage is founded on the unshakable bedrock of biblical truth, where each union reflects a divine blueprint of spiritual leadership, visionary insight, practical provision, and steadfast protection. Picture the lasting impact such marriages could have on families, communities, and even society as a whole, a future where the legacy of faith and integrity is passed down from one generation to the next. In closing, I invite you to join me on this journey of deep introspection, challenge, and ultimately transformation. Let us commit to re-examining the standards by which we judge relationships, and let us embrace a vision of marriage that is as old as the scriptures and as relevant as the challenges we face today. The path ahead is not without obstacles, but the rewards of marriage built on divine principles are measurable, a beacon of hope and strength in a world that so desperately needs them. Thank you for staying with me through this extended exploration of what a man must be if he truly aspires to marry my daughter. May this conversation inspire you to pursue relationships that honor not only your heart, but also the eternal truths laid out in God's Word. Let us step forward together, guided by biblical wisdom, and create a future where every marriage reflects a sacred covenant that has the power to transform lives.